Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. Welcome to our brand new series, Gardens of the Righteous. I'm your host, Talat Sultan, and I'm joined by our esteemed Sheikh, Eman Abid Khan. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Wa alaikum assalam.
And in this series, we'll be focusing on select hadith from the Prophet ﷺ, on spiritual stations, virtues, Eman, and character. Sheikh, what's significant about these hadith?
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. If you think about it, in our lives, we hear loads of ahadith, and especially nowadays with the challenge of social media and the internet, etc., you see ahadith kind of scattered all over the place. And one's attention can be drawn here, there, and almost everywhere. Whereas what this program will hopefully achieve is us focusing on those core spiritual teachings which are at the center and the heart of the Islamic religious tradition, agreed upon by all Muslims en masse over the centuries. Things to do with patience, forbearance, character building, the virtues of godliness, of trying to be the highest, best version of yourself, the highest expression of our human potential. And this is what the prophetic teachings were really about, and that's what we hopefully will explore in these series.
Inshallah. So, Imam Nawawi, in this particular collection, Riyadh-as-Saliheen, was it that he focused on collecting hadith covering these characteristics?
Yeah, so just to give you a sense of perspective, Imam Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala was a jurist, he was a scholar from the Shafi'i school of thought. That's where the majority of his teachings or his writings were really focused on that field, in the field of jurisprudence. But interestingly, he wrote a separate book, the book that we're kind of dealing with today, which was just pertaining not to legalities and the do's and don'ts in that sense of the word, but the do's and the don'ts of your heart, your spiritual heart, your, if you like, your inner consciousness, who you are at your core as a human being. And this book, he died in the 7th century of Islam, so 676 Hijriya. Compare that to the actual early kind of authors of, hadith literature, who like Imam Bukhari, rahimahullah ta'ala, Muhammad bin Ismail, who died 126 Hijriya. You have other such imams who wrote the 6 canonical books. Imam Nawawi, he draws on those earlier 6 canonical books to actually compile this relatively smaller collection. It's just under 2,000 ahadith. In which he focuses on spirituality, virtues of various litanies and devotional deeds, character building, and Eman, as you mentioned.
So, what hadith are we going to cover today?
So the hadith we're looking at today is the hadith where the Prophet ﷺ, he spoke of the importance and the value of the strong believer versus that of a believer who's on his or her tracks, their journey to trying to deepen and strengthen their faith.
Okay, mashallah. And are we going to go through the text of the hadith and then explain
Absolutely.
the meanings and benefits? So
that's going to be the overall pattern, yes. So
okay.
The first hadith of the Prophet ﷺ is where he ﷺ says, on the authority of Abu Hurairah radhiallahu anhu, he says, "Ihris ala ma yanfa'uk." He ﷺ says, on the hadith of Abu Hurairah radhiallahu anhu, he says, "Al-mu'minu al-qawi khayrun wa ahabbu ila Allahi min al-mu'min al-da'if wa fi kullin khayr. Ihris ala ma yanfa'uk wasta'in billah wa la ta'jiz wa in asabaka shay' فلا تقل لو أني فعلت كذا وكذا لكان كذا وكذا فإن لو تفتح عمل الشيطان عمل الشيطان ولكن قل قدر الله وما شاء فعل." So the Prophet ﷺ says, the strong believer is better and more beloved to God, to Allah, than the weak believer. But in both lie goodness. Strive for that which will benefit you and seek the help of Allah. And then don't become defeated internally, but carry on. And then the Prophet ﷺ went on to say thereafter, and then if something should befall you of obstacles or challenges, then don't get into the mindset whereby you say, had I only done such and such, then such and such would have occurred, we would have succeeded. Because the if, saying if, opens the door to the handiwork of shaitan. Rather say, قَدَّرَ اللَّهُ وَمَا شَاءَ فَعَلَ.
So, Sheikh, what's the significance of striving and ista'een? What's the Islamic significance of these two aspects?
So what you have is that the Prophet ﷺ says these two words, ihris and ista'in, both of which are commands from the Prophet ﷺ. They're directives, trying to guide us to that which is going to lead us to the best of ways of being, the highest expression of your human self. So he ﷺ says, ihris, strive for that which will benefit you. And simultaneously he says, and seek the help of God, seek the help of Allah. Now, the presupposition of ihris ala ma yanfa'uk, strive for that which will benefit you, is that the individual kind of sits back, takes stock. What are my skill sets? What can I possibly try and develop and build upon so that I have something to bring to the table in terms of skills, in terms of benefits, in terms of just improving myself as well.
Obviously, is it just benefits to ourselves or others as well?
So it says benefit yourself, but this is not from an individualistic kind of self-centered, if you like, focus. It is a recognition that you need to work on yourself in order and make sure your feet are firmly established, sufficiently such that you can help others. I mean, just think, for example, when, you know, that kind of adage that they say that when you're on the plane and kind of the, God forbid, Allah forbid, the masks fall down, then you apply it to yourself first and then to anyone who's kind of in a situation of need around you. That's not an excuse to kind of say, just be self-centered. But it's to recognize that by building your own skills, then you are able to help others. Additionally, and this is important, when the Prophet ﷺ says, ihris ala ma yanfa'uk, strive to achieve that which will benefit you, it doesn't just mean materially. Or it doesn't just mean it in a profane, ephemeral sense, in the worldly sense. It rather is actually also saying to you, strive to achieve that which will benefit you in this world and the hereafter. And that means, by very definition, Islamically speaking, axiomatically it means that you're also striving to help others. Because by helping others around you, your fellow citizens, your neighbors, your community, by trying to help them and benefit them, then you are automatically drawing upon your life as well the pleasure of Allah, the pleasure of God, right? By being a sense of blessings and grace and benefit to those around you. One of the hadith we'll be covering later on in the collection is the khayrun nas anfa'uhum lin nas. The best of people are the most beneficial of the people for the people. And that's why you see in the Quran itself that Prophet Jesus, son of Mary, may Allah be pleased with them both, Allah says about what Jesus said, he said, وَجَعَلَنِي مُبَارَكًا أَيْنَمَا كُنْتُ. He made me a source of blessing, a source of goodness and help for the people around me wherever I go. And that's the aim of a believer, to benefit themselves, i.e. to be a source of blessing to all those around them.
So it's better to be stronger than weaker. So is it bad to show weakness?
Very interesting question. The fact of the matter is, the hadith says that the strong believer is better and more beloved to God, to Allah, than the weak one. But in both, there is goodness. So one doesn't need to kind of self-judge, kind of self-blame, and kind of almost debase oneself thinking, oh, I have no value before Allah. No, Allah, He blew into us His ruh, His ruh meaning something from Himself. Right? He honored us as human beings. And moreover, then with faith, you're then on this journey to try and get closer to Him. And what you're trying to do is to deepen the roots of that Eman through increased knowledge, learning, study, ibadah, actions, service to people.
So when something befalls us, what we sometimes say, oh, only if I did this and only if I did that, recalling our actions. Is this allowed? Is this weakness of Eman?
No, so the natural state of a person is often when they face what they think may be an obstacle or even a defeat, is you end up becoming reflective and considering what is it that kind of stood in the way of that success. So that kind of reflection is not a bad thing. But where that reflection overflows into a psychological state which one kind of draws upon oneself, not that happens accidentally, but actually you meditate upon it to the extent where you end up in a slightly darker place whereby you're thinking, you know what, if I'd only done this, if I'd only done that, and it's now no longer constructive, but actually it's not so helpful anymore, then you need to remind yourself, actually, this was the decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So long as it's a simple if, as opposed to a lamentation of sorts, if it's a simple if, it would be okay. The Prophet himself, I should add, he says in that hadith, the famous hadith, when he was on the Hajj, he says, لَوْ اسْتَقْبَلْتُ مَا اسْتَدْبَرْتُ. Had I kind of known before what I know now, I would have done the Hajj Tamattu or the Hajj Qiran in the place of this, a form of Hajj, right? So that's okay, but when it becomes a lamentation, then actually one's kind of derailing oneself from the path that would be constructive and would help them to become a stronger individual and believer.
Sheikh, they say that you should say, قَدَرَ اللَّهُ مَا شَاءَ فَعَلَ. I mean, does this sometimes bring about a complacency where you say, well, what's going to happen in my life is going to happen. Allah's decreed it.
قَدَّرَ اللَّهُ مَا شَاءَ فَعَلَ. Yes, this statement, which means this was the decree of God, decree of Allah, and what He willed happened and occurred. Does it lead to complacency? It can do if you approach it with that mindset. But when you approach it with the prophetic mindset, the teaching this in this hadith itself, the Prophet ﷺ said, he didn't say just say قَدَّرَ اللَّهُ مَا شَاءَ فَعَلَ. He said, ihris, strive to achieve that which will benefit you. Strive, work hard, put the effort in. You know, the time is being put in. But then be aware where your mindset, your psychology starts sabotaging you. By you thinking it's all on my shoulders, on your shoulders. No, all this upon us is to put the effort in. But psychologically recognize you're just part of the overall plan. The overall decree is in the hands of God. Allah says in the Quran, وَمَا تَشَاءُونَ إِلَّا إِنْ شَاءَ اللَّهُ. You'll only will as part of the will of Allah.
So Sheikh, we're coming to the end of the show. So we've got about 30 seconds. So in summary, can you mention some of the benefits for us?
The benefit is that wherever you're on your journey, you're doing good. But you can always try and improve, but your improvement is your effort, and thereafter the rest of the whole game, the rest of the whole plan, if you like, is in the hands of Allah.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. That was amazing. Viewers, join us again in the coming episodes where we're going to be going through some amazing hadith. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.